Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to Bangkok, Thailand. Today's subject is whether people are returning to Thailand in 2026 or if they are going to choose other destinations. There are many reasons people are leaving Thailand for other places or choosing not to visit to begin with. Me personally, I think this year I will be trying out Cambodia and Vietnam to see if it brings back the spark that Thailand used to bring. Let's have a walk around Bangkok and go over a few reasons why I think people will decide to give Thailand a miss this year. Number 1. Thailand feels more expensive than it used to. I really do envy people who got to experience Thailand when it was cheap as chips. Now, people come back after a few years and notice the difference straight away. Hotels cost more, food has gone up, a night out isn't as cheap as it used to be, and if you put it all together, it really does add up. It doesn't feel like the bargain it once was. I do like reading the comments on posts from Thailand old-timers talking about what they used to pay, then seeing today's price and feeling a bit ripped off. Of course, prices are going to be different than 10 years ago. That's normal in every country. But prices are still going up in Thailand, and that good value feeling is really going. Once it gets to a certain point, most people just move on and try somewhere else next time, and who can really blame them? Number 2, the exchange rate. The Thai baht is very strong right now and seems to be rising. Compare that with a weak dollar and you've got a terrible exchange rate. A few years ago, the exchange rate was a big reason people kept coming back. Even if prices crept up a bit, the strong foreign currency covered it. Now you look at the rate and you think, is that it? A night out, a few taxes, some meals, and you are watching your balance drop way faster than it used to. It matters even more for long stays. Expats and retirees live off savings or fixed income. What used to be cheap Thailand living now feels more like tight budgeting in a hot country. Some people just don't see the point anymore. And when you add it all up, Thailand loses one of the biggest advantages. If the money doesn't go far, people start looking elsewhere. Vietnam, the Philippines, and even back home begins to look not so bad after all. When nearby countries that are a short flight away stretch their money further, Thailand slips down the list. And that brings me on to the next point. Other countries now feel like a better deal. Places like Cambodia, Vietnam, and even Japan sound more appealing nowadays to some foreigners. I know a few friends who have cancelled their yearly Pattaya trip to go to Cambodia instead. Especially for those who are lucky enough to holiday multiple times a year, they want places they can keep going back to. With the visa crackdown in Thailand, you can see why other countries are more appealing. Many people say they've already done Thailand, and once they try somewhere new and enjoy it, they don't feel the urge to come back. Some people will always think Thailand is the best place in the world, no matter where else they go. But some go to a new place and never plan to return to Thailand. Vietnam is one of the nearby countries that is becoming extremely popular nowadays. The problem is, like Thailand, they will probably raise their prices due to all the tourism. Next, border trouble makes people nervous. This one is worth mentioning because it has pushed a lot of first-timers into choosing somewhere else over Thailand. Although the conflict with Cambodia is happening at the border, People don't do their research, and with all the misinformation online, they think that if they come to Thailand, they are going to be in the middle of all of it. If any first-timers are listening to this and planning on going to Thailand, please don't let the conflict put you off. You will most probably be nowhere near it unless you purposely travel there for that reason. Places like Bangkok, Pattaya, Phuket, they're very, very far from where all of that is going on. You are going to be safe from all of it. News about problems near the border puts people on edge. Some people just don't want the stress for a holiday. Most tourists, they don't follow details closely. They just see headlines and think, yeah, maybe I'll give it a miss. That's enough to change people's plans. But, like I said, please don't let this put you off. Next is visa crackdowns for long-term tourists. For years, a lot of people stayed in Thailand long-term by using visa exemption over and over. You'd come in, stay your time, extend another 30 days, maybe do a short trip out, and then you'd come back again. Immigration mostly let that slide as long as you weren't causing problems. That made Thailand easy for people who wanted to stay a few months without dealing with paperwork. Although some people did take advantage of this by using visa exemption without getting a proper visa to live in Thailand, there were some legit tourists. For example, people who would work offshore for 3 months and then spend 3 months in Thailand. For people like that, it's going to be harder now. Things changed recently. Immigration is paying a lot more attention to people who keep entering on visa exemption. If your passport shows you are coming in and out non-stop, officers can question you or even refuse entry. The message is pretty clear now. Visa exemption is for real tourists, not for people quietly living in the country. This will mainly affect long-term tourists, digital nomads, seasonal visitors, and guys who used to spend half of the year here are suddenly unsure if they'll ever be let back in. That alone puts people off. Nobody wants to book a flight, condos, and plans if there's a chance they get stopped at the airport. It also adds stress that didn't used to exist. Now people worry about what questions they'll be asked, how long they've stayed, or whether this is one entry too many. So for 2026, a lot of people are thinking twice. If you need a proper long-stay visa just to live the same lifestyle you had before, some people decide it's not worth the hassle. They either shorten their trips or choose countries where the rules feel a bit more clearer and are more predictable. Having said all of that, you should always check the immigration rules before changing plans, because if you know the Thai government, they like to randomly change the rules at any given time. Next is tourists behaving badly is a trend online. One thing that comes up a lot now is how big the bad tourist content has become online. People see videos of fights in the street, loud drunk tourists causing problems, or someone getting into trouble with the police, and those clips, they get millions of views. For someone who hasn't been to Thailand yet, it can look like that's normal or what most tourists are like. It isn't, but that is the impression a lot of people take away. When you scroll TikTok or YouTube and keep seeing foreigners getting carried out of bars or screaming at security, it makes Thailand look messy. People start thinking that every beach or every party zone is chaotic and dangerous. That's a big reason some people decide not to book a flight. They assume that the whole country is like what they are seeing in a short clip. The reality on the ground is different. Most people are there to enjoy the culture, the food, the beaches, and just have a good time. But the loud, stupid, or wild behavior gets shared more and more. So the internet ends up giving people the wrong picture, and that scares off people who want a chill, low-stress holiday. Some tourists behave badly because they think they can get away with it, or because they are drunk and not thinking straight. That's not unique to Thailand. It happens in lots of popular areas around the world. But online, the clips are framed like it's a Thailand problem. For someone deciding where to go in 2026, that's enough to make them choose somewhere else that looks a bit safer. Even if the reports are exaggerated, people watch those videos and take them at face value. That's part of why you are hearing a lot of talk about people skipping Thailand this year. They think what they see online is the whole story, and really, it isn't. The next problem is the rules keep changing way too often. One thing people keep mentioning is that the rules in Thailand seem to change all of the time, and that's become a real headache for would-be visitors. One week you can stay this amount of time, the next week it's different again. Sometimes it's about how long you can stay without a visa, other times it's new forms you have to fill out before you even land. The constant updates make planning a trip feel like you are guessing every time rather than just booking a flight and showing up. Then there's the way the government sometimes enforces rules differently depending on where you are entering from or who's on duty, which just adds to the feeling that nothing is set in stone. Recently, there have been law changes to the nightlife opening hours, the visas, shops with the green stuff, and a bunch of other unnecessary changes. Some just get talked about but never actually passed, such as drinking times. But even though they don't get put into law, the articles still get out there, and when people see them, they think it's the actual law. You really need to do research on new changes before you come here. They change so often that it seems nobody actually knows what's true and what's not. Next is the flight costs. This one is not exactly Thailand's fault, but one of the biggest reasons some people are saying they are not coming back to Thailand in 2026 is the cost of getting here. Plane tickets feel a lot more expensive than they used to, especially compared to a few years back before the worldwide lockdown. Flights across Southeast Asia and beyond have been creeping up over the past few years. In fact, overall airfares in this region are now noticeably higher than they were before. On top of that, Thailand itself is putting up some new charges that get folded into the ticket prices. Starting in early 2026, the airport tax included in most international plane tickets is going up more than 50%. That isn't a massive bill on its own, but it does add a solid chunk to what you pay just to land here. A lot of airlines will pass that straight onto the passengers. If you don't book well in advance, you can end up paying way more than you expected. So for a lot of people thinking about Thailand in 2026, the idea of spending a couple hundred or even few hundred more on flights compared to a few years ago is enough to make them pause. Combine that with the other rising costs on the ground, and suddenly Thailand doesn't look as cheap or as easy as it once did. Next, scams feel like they are tolerated. Another thing that puts people off is that the same scams are still very much around, and to outsiders, It feels like they are just part of the Thailand life now. Anyone who's researched Thailand has probably seen warnings before they even book a flight. When the same scams keep popping up year after year, people start to wonder why nothing ever really changes. You've got the classic ones that never seem to die. Jet ski scams where you are accused of damage that was already there. Taxi and tuk-tuk drivers refusing the meter or taking you on a tour that you never asked for. These stories are everywhere online, and for first-timers especially, that creates doubt before they even arrive. Then there are the nightlife-related scams, which scare people even more. Bill padding, hidden drink prices, friendly strangers pushing drinks, or someone suddenly claiming you owe way more than expected. Even if most nights go fine, the fact that these stories keep coming out makes people cautious. Nobody wants to feel like they have to be on guard every time they go for a drink. What really turns people off is the feeling that these scams are tolerated rather than shut down. Tourists hear stories of going to the police and being told there's nothing that can be done, or that it's their word against the business. Whether that's always true or not, that's a reputation that has formed. It gives the impression that tourists are expected to just accept it and move on. Online, this stuff really does spread fast. One bad story can reach millions, and people don't forget it. Even if the majority of visitors never get scammed, those stories stick in people's minds more than the good ones. When someone is choosing between Thailand and another country, they start thinking, why risk it? Thailand has amazing experiences, but the ongoing scam stories chip away at trust. When a place starts feeling like you always need to watch your back, some people decide it's easier to go somewhere else that feels more simple and less worrying. And the last reason is it's become less welcoming. For a lot of repeat visitors, this is the one that's hardest to explain but easiest to feel. Thailand used to have this relaxed, welcoming feeling where you felt comfortable almost straight away. People smiled, things felt easy, and even when there were rules, they didn't feel too bad. These days, that feeling isn't the same for some visitors. There's also a sense that tourists are now seen more as a problem than a benefit. You hear more talk about cracking down, tightening rules, and controlling behaviour. Some of it does make sense, but when it's constant, it changes how people feel. Instead of feeling like a guest, some people feel like they are just being tolerated. In tourist areas, service can feel more transactional than it used to be. The friendly attitude people remember isn't always there. Most locals are still polite and kind, but I don't know, it just feels different now. It doesn't feel as warm or as easygoing as before. And again, online you see all of these things. People share stories about being treated badly, fined, or made to feel unwelcome. Even if they are not the norm, it still gives that bad feeling. In the end, travel is about how a place makes you feel. When Thailand feels less relaxed and less welcoming than it used to, some people decide to take a break. They don't hate the country, they just don't feel the same pull to come back right now. That is just some of the reasons people are going to be avoiding Thailand in 2026 and probably beyond. I know there are a lot more reasons why people are choosing other destinations, so feel free to add them in the comments and I'll try to get them out in another video. I still think Thailand is a great place, and if you have never been before or you are on the fence about visiting, I highly recommend it. I think everyone should go at least once just to experience it. But what about you guys? Are you planning to come to Thailand this year, or are you settling on another place? Let me know in the comments and see you in the next one.